Why do growing businesses love working in Slack? Let's ask Christy at Ari Bikes.
Running things in Slack saves me so much time.
AI summaries save 97 minutes per week. What say you, Rox from Gosney?
Slack helps us build community, it helps us build connection.
Your partners, vendors and customers all in one place. Take us on home, Ashley from Caraway.
If we didn't have Slack tomorrow, I would explode.
Well, let's not let that happen. Visit slack.com/podcast to get 50% off Slack Business Plus.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
New Year, same extra value meals at McDonald's. So now get 2 snack wraps, plus fries, and a medium soft drink for just $8.
For limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Hawaii, Alaska, and California, and for delivery.
Welcome to No Question About That. I'm Ed with Wayne today, and we are talking about Tottenham Hotspur 4, Manchester United 3 in the Carabao Cup quarter-final. Well, that was something, wasn't it, Wayne?
Yeah, we'd planned to talk, and you messaged me at 3-0. You said it should take about a minute. And then as we were scoring, I was sending you back incremental messages like maybe 35 seconds, maybe 40 seconds. Yeah, do you know what? At 3-0, very disappointing. Still disappointed to lose, but there are ways to lose, and sometimes you can learn more about the way that you're progressing in the way that you lose a game of football. And I think, considering the competition, considering the selection, considering everything, I think that was a nice way to lose a game of football. The goals, we'll go through the goals. To lose a game of football, if you're going to lose with the character that you show in the side, I'd rather lose like that than the way it looked like we're about to lose. And kudos goes to the players and the manager for that.
Last 20 minutes, there was a lot more intensity. I mean, United have lost this game on the basis of less than 1 XG. It's amazing. There are some things that are completely divisive for the online world. If I mention Jose Mourinho, Paul Pogba, Marcus Rashford, or XG, just has some effect on people. But United lost that, conceded 4 goals on 0.7 XG, and that will tell you something about the quality of the goals United conceded or the mistakes that were in place in order for us to concede those goals. 3 of those goals we should not have conceded at all. 1 is a decent Spurs goal. The 4th one, I mean, I put that down as a mistake because I think the keeper's weak, but he complained about a foul. I mean, I guess so. I mean, maybe you wouldn't have had Peter Schmeichel fouled like that. I tell you that. He'd actually fucking cleaned out the forward. So, yeah, maybe I'm being old school about this. So that is the disappointing thing. Structurally, I don't think United were bad at all, really. I mean, this is a Spurs side that takes a lot of risks and scored, 1 from a corner that's gone straight in, 1 from a horrendous piece of keeping where he's just passed it back to the forward, and a really terrible pieces of Lisandro Martinez defending. Shame, because he was good on Sunday. I thought it might be his renaissance, but he went back to form of old. So it's just a lot of chaos in this game. And then we've got 3 goals, 0.8 XG. Sorry, mouth readers, for mentioning this. Came from Amad Diallo's. There's 0.8 XG for the goal or 0.99 post-shot expected goals because he's like 2 centimetres off the line. What it was 100% Fraser Forster shitting himself. and praise to Diallo because that guy's a madden when it comes to to pressing. No one has ever worked harder than Amad Diallo when it comes to pressing a defender. So much kudos to him for showing how it's done. A little bit harebrained sometimes with it. It's not always structured, but that was brilliant. So anyway, sorry, rambled on about 20 different things then, but there's so much that happened in this game.
There was. Yeah, okay. Let's begin. I do think you're right in Martinez. Like, the weekend, he was so good. And he was poor for 2 goals tonight, not just the half clearance. It was really poor on the other goal where he just stood off and allowed that shot. It's quite so soft to allow that one. Solanke's got the measure of us at the moment, and I'm not having that with the corner by Andy. It's not just that. Look, I think he's got half a claim on the fact that he was somewhat impeded, that he went with his right arm and he was blocked from going with his left. That much is evident from what we can see. However, it would be so soft, and if they disallowed it, great, but it was so soft, and you want to see him going better, not just to clear it out, but to put some kind of claim on it. It's gone straight in from the corner.
Yeah.
The fight back was a strange one because there were the mistakes. Now, here's where the first subs that we made were great in terms of injecting the pace. But it was the secondary ones where he moved Agate out of the side and moved Bruno back to bring Garnacho on. I think that was unnecessary because I think we had the measure of it at that point.
Yeah, it didn't work. Didn't work. I mean, Garnacho, I guess he personally would have really, really wanted to have made an impact on this game. Amorim said before the Spurs game that Garnacho was annoyed with him for dropping him from the City game. So fine. He'd have wanted more of a response. There wasn't anything. I do think it made a mistake moving him back. Amorim seems to kind of have this thought that Bruno might be his best option at number 8. I'm not sure about that personally. I'd like him as close to goal as possible. But yeah, that change didn't quite work. The Kobe Mainoo change, I mean, it came at the same time, didn't it? He looked a little bit rusty, a few nice touches, didn't quite managed to impose himself on a very, very chaotic game. But they came later. And United picked up the intensity, so maybe it helped. The actual starting 11 was driven, I guess, a lot by the data science that they're using to try and manage injuries at the moment. I mean, they've been quite clear that they're making some substitutions that are pre-planned. Like, you will get 60 minutes and whatever the game state, we're going to move players out, because they looked at the schedule, which has been somewhat cleared by not having 2 games in January in the League Cup semi-final. But they're trying to manage everyone, and that has prompted the rest of changes again. I guess we'll see by May if they're fresh and we don't have 12 injuries, that this is a strategy that will have paid off. Or we'll be out of all the cup competitions and 8th in the league, and it won't matter if they're all fit because nothing's being achieved. So unfortunately, time will tell on this one. But it's probably a more sensible approach than Erik Ten Hag's one, which was to run them all into the ground until their legs fell off and stuff like that. So that prompted, I think, a lot of the starting 11. And probably for a good portion, although the structure was fine in the first half, good proportion of the first half, it's just a bit disjointed. So it didn't really manage to create.
I thought we played well. You know,
yeah, no. It's funny. I said disjointed on the internet, and the entire internet disagreed with me. It was fair enough, like it's whatever. A few people in there decided to call me a cunt who will not be seeing my posts anymore. I love the block button. It's a shame that Elon wants to somehow change it. It's great. Wouldn't talk to these idiots in the pub. Don't need to talk to them online.
No.
But yes, the internet disagreed with my view. My view was that they had a lot of the ball in the shape that Amorim wants, but it didn't really create much, and I think that was evident on naught shots on target.
That's true. I just mean we look prettier than we have done. And I think when I'm saying you want to measure how you perform in defeats, that was one thing. Now, what I was... Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's a good interruption.
I'm on my train of thought now, and I don't want to be derailed from it. So where I definitely agree, second off, obviously, the problem, we've got a big problem in terms of switching off at the start of halves, and that's an Amorim problem, because we've seen it too often under him. So something needs to work with that. It's not only Amorim, we've seen it under Ten Hag this season as well. Yeah. It happened quite a lot. but it's happening too often under this manager, so it needs to be eradicated. So the disappointing thing was obviously the way that we conceded the 2 goals at the start of the second half. Now, what you want to see immediately is what you're going to do with reaction. First from the manager, second from the players. Manager reacted straight away. There was no pausing. Like, we've criticised other managers in the past for waiting too long.
He's incredibly proactive. I mean, maybe even too much, right? He'll make 3 subs at once, and you almost always use all his 5 subs. But incredibly proactive. He will make changes.
Yeah, and those first changes, like I said, I would have actually. I was a bit concerned with Mazraoui. I don't think he had the best game tonight, and because he was on the booking, I thought the Anthony Ahmad thing that seems to be working quite well on that side I would have liked to have seen that again. I think it might be more profitable, because the problem, and I mentioned that cautiously with Ahmad, is that his importance to the side is so high at the moment that it's obviously high, and his ceiling, I think, is much higher than I ever gave him credit for, which I think he's potentially the best player at the club on this kind of form. If you play like that all the time, there's no doubt. I think his ceiling's so high, like to be one of the best players in the league high. He's scarily good. However, when you become so reliant on a player who's so dominant in the system, you see little issues what we saw tonight. I mean, he got the goal, but I mean, there was also like a little bit of hero efforts from 20-odd yards, which one of them nearly came off, forced her into a change, but a couple of them were wayward as well. Now, I think like I said, I think the thing that derailed the momentum was the last change and bringing off Ugarte, more than bringing on Garnacho, because I don't want to be too critical of him. Obviously, there's some conversation going on about how he's going to fit into the system, but Ugarte has become so pivotal as well to the way that we play that I felt that it might have almost been better to not have brought Mainu on, to put Fernandez back. And I'm Cobby's biggest fan. I think at the moment he's struggling to find a place in that system, whereas Ugarte isn't. And if you wanted to have a better chance of getting a result tonight, maybe that. I think what we did, we went to the gamble too early, which sometimes isn't a bad thing. And we saw a manager trying to work that out tonight. I think he went there too early. It didn't work. But it almost did because of the way that Spurs were. Spurs just made themselves anxious, really. And they're
Spursy, aren't they? So it's built into the DNA. Well, I mean, I don't believe that. I know you're writing a whole book on identity in playing. I don't really believe that there's somehow a Spursy thing, but it's become part of the discourse, which is amusing. Is it 7 or was it the 8th game of the Amorim time? I forget now. It's not very long anyway. And I feel all over the pitch, he's trying to work out what the best combinations and balance are. And you talked about that. Right back, I don't really think Mazraoui is a wing back. He suffers a little bit for the physicality of getting up and down and the pace. I think he's a brilliant footballer. Don't get me wrong. I actually like him more at right centre-back than in this system than wing back. Could be wrong. Just some bloke on the internet with an opinion. We all have them. And all of that, but he's trying to find that balance there. And Diallo coming from deeper in that attacking wing back role has worked better than Mazraoui doing it, both in the attacking and the defensive sense. I'm kind of interested, as you say, with Anthony at right wing back and the balance he can give with Diallo ahead of him in terms of both the defensive and the attacking side of that and the combinations there. In central midfield, he has no real options on the left side at the moment because he's played Dallo. He gives us a lot of heart and energy and physicality qualities, a bit 6 to 7 out of 10 every game, isn't it? And then left side of the back three would struggle a little bit because Martinez is not having a great season. I can't really put my finger on why he's making so many errors. And then in central midfield, which is what I really wanted to get to, I think the challenge between creation, progression, and defensive solidity is something that Ten Hag struggled with for 2 years. Tried lots and lots of different combinations there, and Amorim is too, because you've got a lot of players who are very good in one way, and Kobbie Mainu might be very good in all ways, but we're really only seeing the kind of defensive and possession side of it, not the progression side of it. And Ugarte, I think, was fantastic against City. I mean, I said on this podcast, I thought that was his best game for us.
Yeah.
But he's fantastic in a very, very narrow sense, which is perfect. He's a destroyer and a disruptor, and he understands defensive space, doesn't use the ball very well. I've said this a few times before, and people always push back, but he's 13th percentile amongst the top 7 leagues for ball progression from central midfield, right? So I think it's just like you can use your eyes or you can use data or some combination of both. He does not help United get the ball forward into the right areas. And that's when I say about balance in central midfield, that's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that's why Amorim is trying Fernandes in there, because he understands that somebody in that central midfield has to move the ball forward, or United become very one-dimensional that goes down the wings all the time.
Well,
anyway, a very long way of saying I'm not quite sure he's sure or we're sure what the right balance is there.
No, but tonight, interestingly, tried Eriksen. Eriksen, it's such a curious thing because he was fantastic tonight. He really was fantastic. But you can see what's tiring. You've got to bring him off. You just don't have another player to do what Eriksen can do. Now, can Manu pick up some of those traits? He can. He can. It's possible. Can Bruno do that? No, because he's not as disciplined as Eriksen. And he's too set in his ways now. He's too fond of a gamble. Casemiro, he can play a pass like that, but he just can't. He doesn't have the creativity that Eriksen has. So you're quite right, and it's a conversation that we've come back to so many times. We've got so many players who are blessed with certain qualities. Now, I thought Manu I thought he was good at City. I actually think that was I would have liked to have seen what Mount did in that system, but I do think that moving Bruno into that front line and forcing Manu into midfield actually probably won us the game, because I think that Bruno in that position was safer for us in that game. Now, tonight, honestly, like I've already said, I do think that bringing Manu on was probably the wrong choice, because really what I'm trying to say is bringing Ugarte off was the wrong choice. I can understand bringing Eriksen off. That had to be done. Maybe I would have taken the chance then and moving Fernandes back. But these are things that the manager's learning as we go. And
yeah.
Like I said, there are ways to lose games of football, and we were 3-0 down at one point, and the character that we showed, and we've capitulated in those situations in the recent past. So to turn that around is already a massive indication of progress in this side, in this squad as well.
For sure, for sure. And don't take my comments as being too harshly critical. I mean, there's disappointment with going out, but go out of one competition of the 4 that United are competing for. Well, not really competing for the Premier League, but competing to finish in important places or maybe qualify to Europe. This is the one that I guess we would rank lowest, although it has provided a great moment in the recent past, of course, right? So I'm not horrendously disappointed, and I don't want to be too critical. Some things went wrong. They made some individual mistakes. The structure's looking better by the game. We weren't perhaps because of the nature of the game today and the very different style that Spurs have and the opportunities that present, we weren't as disciplined as we were against City. Very, very controlled and disciplined performance against City, which required 2 moments of exceptional kind of weirdness and or quality for us to win the game, but that's football. And tonight, very nearly, but you can't really give away 3 goals and expect to win very many games of football, can you? And that'll be the thing that Amorim will be thinking about. It's the details. He keeps saying this, doesn't he? Details. Right? Details.
And he's right, and I think you're right. I mean, look, the criticisms are all valid because we've lost the game and we've conceded some horrendous goals. We can't get away from that. One thing I will say is the last few times we've played Spurs, and you could probably include the home game last season we drew with them, Postecoglou he had the tactical measure of Ten Hag, without question. United played well in stages in the game against them at White Hart Lane last season, but then they scored and we had no reaction and they just pulverised us from that moment. They certainly did that earlier on in the season. That was the first time, I don't know if you recall this, but I'd always been on the fence with Ten Hag's tactical approach because I wasn't sure until we had all the players fit. That was really about the first time that we'd seen a lot of players available that we could say what does his tactical system look like, and it was so Van Gaal-esque, it was so static, and the way that Postecoglou had got the team playing was so dynamic and mobile. What we saw tonight, we had the tactical measure of Spurs. I'm certain of that. I have no problem in looking at that game on an eye, like on the view of what you've seen of the game, rather than the numbers. See the way that the game went, the flow of it, the way that the tempo was. I have no problems with Amorim tactically against the top managers so far. Maybe against Forest. But then again, didn't Nuno always have that kind of Indian sign-overs anyway, where with the disgusting Wolf sides that we played? It's just his brand of football. It's horrible to bring to Old Trafford. Anyway, my point is that Amorim, I think, tactically sound. I have no problem with that. And they can't legislate for those kind of errors. What you want to see then from a manager is you want to see not the same errors being repeated, and that's selection really. That, I mean, you can say beforehand that Bayandia has been a capable goalkeeper.
And I guess so. We've barely ever seen him. So.
Exactly. But they were horrible mistakes tonight. Do you put that down as a one-off? Yeah, of course you do. He's going to get another chance. Do you?
Well, might be. It's one of those performances you're like, yeah, bye, nice knowing you. So
maybe.
I'd be surprised if I mean, there's no point giving him too much airtime, I suppose, but I'd be surprised if we see him beyond the summer, just because, like, he's a professional. And he used to be an international, does he really want to sit on the bench forever, right? He's not competing to be number one at United, as we've seen, because he's only played, I think that's only his third game. Third or fourth? I can't.
Well, certainly his first under...
Certainly his first under Amorim, yeah. And we won't see him again this season, right? Unless we draw a non-league side in the FA Cup.
He might play against Arsenal in the Cup. You never know. That's something I wouldn't rule that out just yet, because I think this rotational policy is seen this. There are going to be things like Mainu in that midfield to finding a way, because I think Ugarte is pretty much a starter now, so you're going to have to find a role in there for Ugarte and Mainu to work in combination, because that long term should be a pair, so work on what they're supposed to do in there. Mainu is really the one who's shouldering that responsibility, because Ugarte's role is so defined and what he does so well. So Mainu is basically going to be given special tasks. He's going to be the one being told to be less like himself and more play to instruction, which he can do. He can be moulded to do that.
I mean, look, in the youth sides, you remember him as a player who linked play really well. Obviously playing well above his station for a very long time. Cobby was, but he moves the ball forward with ease. It doesn't look like it when he's at United, and I feel like he's playing just a bit within himself, and some of that's going to be on him. A lot is going to be on the coach to give him the confidence to say, hey, I want you to be a bit braver with the ball. I mean, I think, am I right in saying that Amorim even said that? Like something to that effect anyway. I forget the exact quote now, but I think they will want him to move the ball forward a bit more than he does. And I just think that's a fair observation. And if we're still there in 2 years' time with Copy saying the same thing, so we'll have a problem, I think. It's a bit like an unfair comparison, but Scott McTominay, before he was profiled correctly, sorry to use that word, as a box-crashing number 10-ish, no, number 8, as he's playing pretty successful at Napoli this season. He was often in a deeper role, and he couldn't pass the ball, right? He didn't play it forwards. He played the safe ball all the time. People accused him of being a passing shadow, which he was. And that's because he's just in the wrong position. And there'll be a question mark in 2 years' time if Copy is not that kind of link number 8 as to whether he's developed in the right way. At the moment, he's in his second season as a professional. He's missed a fair bit with injury, and there's lots and lots and lots of time for him to develop well, and you kind of feel that Amorim will be the right person. He's dealt with a lot of young players in his coaching career, lots and lots of young players, and brought many of them forward. So
I've got, by the way, that will sound like I'm being a bit Cobby bashing, but I'm not at all. I'm not. I just think that just on tonight, because like I said earlier, he played very well on Sunday. Just on tonight's evidence, I just thought it was probably the wrong choice to make. So that's where I'm thinking that long-term planning has got to come in. It's the other areas like Garnacho is an obvious kind of, and he's identified it early on, which is really good. And we've talked about this earlier on in different podcasts where he's not a natural player to playing that withdrawn number 10. Even though Rashford was saying that he could play in that role, there's no evidence of that either. So he
said he couldn't, then he said he could. So it was a bit mixed
messages.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being a bit there. But there are also, like, what I'm saying is there are areas in the team which he has already identified of being like, this needs work, we need to do something on this. And then obviously there are the individuals as well. Now there is the other thing that is quite separate to all of this, which is form. And I think the concerning thing from tonight, more than the goalkeeper, because the goalkeeper can be dropped and you won't expect to see him again, you don't expect to see him again, is Martinez, because you do expect to see him every single week. And 2 years ago, before he got his injury, he was rated pretty much as one of the best three centre-halves in the league. And it has been quite a drop-off. I was less concerned about the error, the swipe. I was less concerned with that than the other one, because he just stands off him. There's no aggression. He just allows the shot to get away.
Yeah, you do wonder what's happening there, whether he's... Because his channel defending isn't the best part of his game, but he was always aggressive, right? Like, even if he wasn't quite in the right position, there's no chance he's going to shirk a challenge at any point. And then the other thing that was absolutely brilliant about him is his passing, and both have been off this season. On Sunday, it was quite notable how much of the ball he got, and it was him that was trying to move the ball through the thirds, and he did it extremely successfully.
He did one tonight as well. There was one late on, but he put through to Garnacho. And obviously, Garnacho didn't have the pace to go behind, but so I've got to. I'm criticising him, I've got to give.
No, it's fair enough. I mean, we want the best of him, right? Because we've seen what the best of him looks like, and it's a very good defender, and it should do, in theory, fit this system very well, right? It should do, like one of the wide centre backs, a spare man in the middle, whether that's De Ligt or Harry.
Yeah.
Amongst our selection of defenders, who gives them security and with anything that's aerial. I mean, it's Premier League, so you get a bit of it, but not loads of it. And they can cover that box very successfully. And in an Amorim system, you get one of the two wing backs who's a bit more defensive than the other. Typically, tonight he's gone with two more defensive ones. And anyway, it's just giving him, it should in theory give him defensive security, but also give him that role, which is very good, and play to his strengths, which is he gets the ball fairly frequently. He's one of the wide centre backs, and he can move the ball forward through our wing backs or central midfield. And that's the concerning thing, where two parts of his game are a bit off. It doesn't mean I'm saying, we should bid him right now. Like, I'm not some fucking incel in front of a Football Manager game, like selling 15 players every summer and then buying 15 more in. It's funny, I haven't played football
I'm
like 20 years, but I assume it still works like that. So
it's close to what we've been doing, though, for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I know, and it doesn't really work, right? And the consequence of doing that and then getting it wrong is you owe other clubs £400 million and you don't have any money to buy new players, right? That's the consequence. Because you don't get top dollar for players who failed at your club.
Yeah, I thought on commentary tonight, Kelsa Breeze, Gary Neville was a little bit harsh. He said there are a lot of these players aren't good enough, and I think no. For the fair, what you just said there, the transfer turnover, you could say that. I think we know the players who aren't good enough. There's no point in. Remember, maybe 2 or 3 years ago when I first started gracing this podcast with my beautiful hair, which then disappeared.
Fell out.
The more time I talk to you, the quicker it fell out. Anyway, one of the points...
You won't be the first. Like, there you go. How many lives have I destroyed?
It's the Wilf McGuinness theory. That's equivalent to the stress of managing Manchester United. Anyway,
by the way, I know I poke fun at you from this. I cannot believe I still have as much hair as I have. My dad was grey at 30 and it's all gone, basically. And so was his dad.
And mine's chosen. We did get a comment on this. Mine is chosen. I do comment about being bald, but it is a cultivated look. It's not bald, it's shit.
Am I right in saying we'll get back onto the football in a second. But I'd forgotten at one point when we met at Socrates Meetup, right, in London, in East London.
Yes.
And I'd forgotten that, and you reminded me, and I was like, didn't you have a comb over at that point? Didn't you? These kind of, was it long, or was it combed over, or was it kind of long?
No,
long?
it was long. It was definitely long. It wasn't.
There definitely wasn't any comb over going on.
No, because that was the point I'd always said that if I ever reached that,
you just shave it.
Yeah, and I was getting there, so I said, no, I've got some dignity left.
That was a nice meet-up series. I don't think it still happens.
No.
But they used to get a lot of bloggers and writers and some now recognisably famous faces in the world of football media used to attend there quite often. So.
I would have thought that you wouldn't be able to do that now because egos, it'd just be too much. And I speak as one.
Let me tell you, there were some egos in that crowd anyway at that point.
Where was I going with that point? I was making a point about squads.
I don't know. I completely derailed you.
Yeah, do you know what? It's not really that important, but the point is that I don't think we've got that bad a squad. I just think we know. Oh, sorry. This is the point I was going to make, is that when I first was on the podcast and we were having a similar turnover, let's say Ollie had just been sacked and we were bringing Eric Ten Hag in, the point I was making at the time was we all know the players aren't good enough, so do we sit here every week and do we call them out for that? Or do we praise them when they do unexpectedly well and just wait for time to take its natural course? For example, Eric Bailly was one. Harry Maguire, another one. McTominay was another one. Do you know, you reach a point where you say they've had enough criticism. Lindelof tonight. Paul Parker, he says on the Monday pods that I do with him, he says Lindelof always gets injured before a transfer window. And he texted me tonight and I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, yeah, I'm not wanting for...
A bit harsh. He's not planning it. But
yes,
no,
I know.
He's been injured frequently, yeah.
He looked really pissed off when he came off tonight.
He's out of contract in the summer, so he'll be moving on, I'm sure. I mean, United have made quite an effort to try and pull back on the wage bill. I mean, per the last full year financials, it's 364 million. That's the total employee benefit. So that's not just players, that's 1,000 staff, or now I guess we should say 750 staff or something like that. So I imagine next time we see the full financials, although they don't break it out between players and non-players. UEFA did one season, everyone hated it, so they've stopped doing it because they have the data, of course. But I imagine we'll see that wage budget quite a bit lower. It's why when... I'll stop diverting us. Why when everyone on the internet keeps repeating, in fact, the professional media keep doing this as well. They keep saying that Marcus Rashford is earning £350,000 a week. I can tell you with absolute certainty, not that I have looked inside his bank account, that he's not earning anywhere near that. I can tell you with absolute certainty. United have 40 professionals. He is not 15% of the wage budget. Absolutely not. Never. Stop reading Capology, you fucking fools. And that's The Athletic and other professional media I'm talking about there.
And I'll just play devil's advocate to the listeners who might be unknown. Believe what you want, listeners. Believe what you want. Don't listen to Ed. You can. Do you know? You believe what you want. He's fine. No.
I tell you what. If I was listening to me, which sadly I sometimes have to because I edit these podcasts.
Yes.
So trust me, I do not want to listen to myself. But I believe myself when it comes to management of large-scale businesses and finances. Much more than I would on tactics. So there you go. Darnish on the tactics pods on Mondays. NQAT pod at Patreon if you want to explore those.
Yeah. And I'll complete my thought now, which is to say, I don't believe that we've got that many players who are as rubbish as Gary Neville seemed to think earlier on. But I also do think, I'm in a weird zone with some of the players. That being, Harry Maguire on Sunday probably had one of his best 3 games for us.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
I think he was utterly dominant against Ireland, and the way that he read him, and he had some help from Martinez because I think he was picking him up as well. But the way that he read him, and yes, it was down to the tactics and the setup, so the manager gets credit for that as well. But the way that he managed Ireland was as good as any defender could. That's a manual on how to play against a player like him.
Absolutely. He was great. Is that not one of the first responsibilities of a manager, though, to play to your players' strengths and don't emphasize their weaknesses? Right? So when Harry was playing with all those years with the aforementioned Mr. Lindelof, who seemed to like create chaos amongst themselves in a two with a reasonably high line and exposed all of Harry's like biggest weaknesses, right? In a back three with much more security, where you're not playing chaos ball, there isn't a big donut shape in midfield, and you're trying to retain possession of the ball much more, emphasizes all his strengths. Sorry.
No, absolutely, I'm with you. But then my other side of the coin is it worth the investment of giving him a new contract? When, I think Dan said it on the podcast, I still don't trust him. Whereas I think like that's a good point to make. But I'm still at the point where, because it's a new manager, I cut the slack. What I look at is the things like tonight, where last season you said go chaos ball is the only thing that can work in this situation. Whereas tonight, trying to go chaos ball was probably the thing that cost us the result. Now, I'm less annoyed about it than I would be if it was under 10 hours, because it's a manager finding out his system. My point is that finally to get there is that while I don't think we're as bad as Neville thinks we are, and the jury's still out on some of the players, I'm still not sure whether I'd be full on giving them the commitment based on them having a good reaction under this manager. It's a really, really difficult kind of environment for Amorim to manage, considering the judgment that he's got to take on that. Because you really do have to be harsh when you're creating a winning environment. Maguire's a great case in point for it.
It's a great case in point. I mean, like you work out the total finances of any like squad management. Right? It's a shame we don't have a sporting director anymore, because that would be part of their operational remit, is to manage the evolution of the squad within the budget that you have. But hey, there you go. Didn't work out. But with Maguire, it'll be how long the contract is, and he is well within his rights at his age, 31, to think about what is the longest contract and the most security he can gain. Right? So the sensible thing might be to trigger the 1-year extension and just leave it at that and see how he does next year. That might be the most sensible thing. And that will cost United, let's say, £10 million, right? Something like that, whatever he earns per year. Roundabout, give or take. The option to release him and say, okay, you can go, because you trigger the contract, you probably have to give him a payoff if you try and sell him after that, right? And we saw with Wan-Bissaka, basically the money they got in for him was pretty much all paid out to him, quite a very significant amount of it. So the most expensive option, of course, is just let him go and buy a new player. That's wages. And we see with high quality players, you have to pay them a lot of money. Lenny Yoro is earning a lot of money, and you have to pay a massive fee as well. And that just has to be balanced out with all the other needs we have in the squad, right? So I am not a sporting director. My bet, though, with United is they'll trigger that 1-year extension. I'll leave it at that, because it's the least amount of commitment they have to make to the player.
Yeah, and Evans will be going, and Lindelof will be gone. And I think Maguire, as he emerges as a reliable figure in this thing,
system,
you'll want someone there, or your manager will want someone there who.
But I wouldn't give him a 3-year contract.
No, exactly. But like Evans will be there when he called upon. Hopefully, you won't need to do that all the time. But in a 3-man defence, playing like he did on Sunday, there's no rhyme or reason there's no argument against Maguire being a starter. Really, there isn't, because that's a world-class striker, or obviously in a tough run of form himself, low confidence. But you would say, all right, give him the run, because there's no evidence there to when you've got 3 centre-backs to play, there's no evidence there under this management, when you're giving everyone a clean slate, that he can't do the work that you're asking him to do.
It's a little bit shame that he's going to try and find the right balance, Amorim, and I think he probably likes having Martinez at the left side of central defence for his promised passing ability. Shame the defending's not really there. I think eventually he'll probably evolve to Yoro, having more and more game time. He's building up to it, especially his pace and those long legs, his ability to make those. He's made one brilliant one tonight, didn't he? Fantastic timing. I think he'll end up there. And then that might mean that De Ligt and Maguire are fighting out for one place. And you don't have them, the two of them together, because the mix of having 2/3 of your three-man central defence being a little bit ponderous with the passing, I don't think is awesome. But we'll see where we get to. I mean, you need a few, right? You can play 3 at the back. You need 5. Yeah. One of them can be a utility. So you've got Mazraoui, Martinez. Probably, let's assume Maguire's here next season and De Ligt, right? Is that our 5, or do they buy an extra central defender in the summer, spend a lot of money on it, and release an extra one of those defenders, Maguire, or sell Martinez on? Because you go, okay, it's not working. So.
Yeah.
All right. There's a few other players we haven't mentioned. Anthony got his first start in an attacking position for quite a long time. Not sure he had the impact of, say, Ahmad had when he came on, though.
No buts, really. No, he didn't. The one thing I will say is, and it's the only thing really to keep saying with Anthony, is that it will be the combination with Ahmad or the replacing on. Yeah, all right, like tonight, we're in a situation where you can't use Ahmad, when you don't rely on him so much, when you want to give him a breather. So it was a good exercise in that. So we do see that. I don't think you would. The jury's still out on whether or not you can do the right wing back position. That's fair. I don't think it's particularly quick, but with the players around him moving, he can be clever, or he's got tricks. Oh, he's got 2 tricks: the spinny one and the cutting with the left. Now that can. The cutting with the left can be very useful when there's movement around him. It might be one-dimensional, but if you've got 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional players around him, then you've got more opportunity of working that space. He just less opportunity of doing it when he's playing in the front of a 3. So if you have him in the right wing back and you've got a Mount, or you've got someone else, Garnacho even, in front of him, it might open that space up there. So I think the experiment of trying him on the right of a front 3 is not right, but there's still scope for him to play there, especially in tandem with Ahmad, for sure.
We're talking about like playing to strengths, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't score and he doesn't create. I mean, that's not just. I'm not being mean and snarky. It's just true, right?
Yeah.
He has literally scored for United before. Everyone tells me that's right. He has scored for United. It's very uncommon with him. Another player doesn't score a lot, but got a goal tonight, Josh Xerxes. That's his 4th goal for the club. Got 2 in one game, 1 in another. I think that's his 4th goal for the club. So, yeah. And I don't know what to make of him. I can't tell whether he's going to be a real player for United. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a real player in a dynamic side chasing the Premier League, but is he all right now in a squad, in a rotation option? He's got to find a place in the team. I'm not sure. It doesn't feel like that's number 9, but I may be missing something, given that's basically where he played for Bologna successfully last season.
Well, he scored 3 goals under the manager, right? Under this manager. So that's not a bad return so far.
Yeah.
He came on tonight. He made a difference. He scored a goal.
Got the goal, yeah. In the right place.
Looked a little bit of a threat as well. He had the headed chance, which I think a striker with more conviction would have done better. But Højlund's not that striker either, so he might not have done better in that position. I still think in this system, he's probably best served as a number 9. Because I think United have got their work cut out trying to find out the 10s in that system. Bruno seems an obvious one. And Ahmad, yeah, all right. The other one, he doesn't see. There are different problems to solving those situations without putting Xerxes into that. So I don't think he's good enough to play the link. He would be in the Bologna side, but he's made a step up to United, and it's just not the right role for him. So can he develop enough? I don't think that that's a bad return. 3 goals in the 8 games, but he won't have played that many games for.
Yeah.
I think you would want someone better. He's kind of like warming a space until a youngster breaks through, I think, which seems a rotten thing to be saying for someone who costs £30-odd million.
And he's fairly young himself, but yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Wouldn't you like one of the many, many very good 17 and 18-year-olds United have got to be just a couple of years further on in their development?
Mm.
And we managed to spend 45 minutes talking, and I realise I took us off on various tangents in that 45 minutes, but 45 minutes talking about this game, which is, in the grand scheme of things, not that important. But there you go. Hey, we didn't even talk about Johnny Evans' goal. I was convinced it was an own goal at first, but it was not. It was fully Johnny Evans' goal. He managed to... I feel like the defender beat himself, jumped and completely missed the ball, and Johnny Evans just nodded it in. So good for him. It was for him. Yeah. All right. A few thoughts about Bournemouth at the weekend. Doing great under Iraola.
Yeah, really good. The one thing you want to see with Amorim is like, we know that he can tactically set up well in the bigger games, and I'm adamant that he did that tonight. I don't really see much evidence against that, apart from the individual errors. So we want to see a selection that looks like his strongest side, be confident enough to take apart a good, confident side. Remember that Bournemouth came to Old Trafford and beat scored the tree last season. Yeah, that's basically what I want to see it. And I'd like to see Garnacho in the side and in a role that he's confident in and making a difference, because you don't want to lose the momentum of a good player like that, or you lose the confidence. You know what I mean? You don't want him to be derailed completely. He's definitely a player in there. It is incumbent on the manager to be able to get the best out of him. So I'd like to see that. Having said that, at this moment in time, it's just more important that we win and play well, regardless of who's in the side.
Yeah, I mean, they had a fairly controversial draw with West Ham at the weekend, didn't they, Bournemouth? And then before that, they beat Ipswich, Spurs and Wolves before that. I mean, they're up to 6. We could actually overtake them with a victory, though. And there's only 1 in the goal difference, I think. So it's still they're 6th and we're 13th, and there's a win between all of that. So it could start to look much, much better with a couple of wins in a row. But I've been saying that for a few weeks, and we are not consistent enough to do that. But yeah, it's kind of interesting tactically, Bournemouth, because John McKenzie from Tifo, The Athletic, did a piece earlier this week saying, hey, would a big club take a risk on Iraola, given the kind of pretty risky tactics he's taking, but not that dissimilar to Spurs, actually, compressing the game and pushing really high up the pitch. So would they or not? Is he one of the next great managers? Don't know yet, but he's taking a team, probably the smallest budget, or maybe it's slightly bigger than Ipswich is, but one of the smallest budgets in the league, with a 12,000 capacity stadium, and massively overperforming. After they sold their main striker.
Yeah, no, and they play nice football as well. They're nice to watch. And when we played against them, Solanke was always, an handful, but I always put that down to the system as well, not just the player. He was an handful, but it was the way that Bournemouth played that was the problem. And so he does deserve credit. And while I say that United got battered off them last season, that was a perfectly executed game plan. We had a few injuries, but they absolutely played us off the pitch and deserved to win by more than the 3, because they obviously had that goal disallowed as well, which could have easily brought the end of Ten Hag's reign a lot earlier than it came. So they're not a team. Did we get beat by them away as well? I think we did last season.
We might well have done. I completely wiped it from my memory.
I'm sure that we did. We've got a track record of getting beat off Bournemouth, which, we did.
Going all the way back to 1984 in the FA Cup.
I was going to say a couple of times in the 80s, but shouldn't be happening in the Premier League. But like you said, now we're scrambling for that win around Christmas time to get above mighty Bournemouth. And that sounds like I'm being condescending. I'm not. They deserve to be where they are, and United deserve to be where we are, and it is a massive test. And we can sit here on this podcast and we can say, oh, well, Amorim got the tactical better of Guardiola at the weekend, and he tactically matched Postecoglou for what it was worth tonight. But he's still got to do it against all the other managers as well. Didn't do it against Nuno. Forest had the measure of us there. There are silly things. There are problems that we inflict upon ourselves, like conceding goals in the first minute of offs and everything like that. These are the problems. All these kind of things. Still teething problems at the moment that we've got to start seeing progress on. And Bournemouth are exactly the kind of side who will take advantage of the mistakes that you make when you don't. So everything's about progress at this moment in time. Like I said, there are things I do want to see, like Garnacho playing well. But as a fan of the club, you kind of just like, at this moment in time, all that goes out of the window, your favourites and everything like that. It's like, just play a game. Play like we did tonight. Play to win a game of football. Maybe not for the 10 minutes after half time. The rest of it is fine. And that's the thing. The one thing I will say, as a note of caution, just to end on a bit of a bum note, I still feel like there are elements of this that we did see under Ten Hag. Not exactly the same in terms of system. You said when he was flogging all the players into the ground, we still saw this is what a system looks like. This is what a nice pattern of play looks like. All these kind of things that you do tend to see when things are going well at the start of an era. So we are seeing that. This does feel more solid. Maybe I'm just being more hopeful, but we have also seen the cracks in that as well. So we do need to start seeing more convincing progress, and that does start, like, cause obviously the Forest game's in the memory.
Got to get results as well as the progress to whatever end state we expect. Yeah. I mean, he's obviously going to have quite a lot of grace, Amorim, as he should do. Yeah. And let's just assume that Sir Jim has lots of patience, more patience with the manager than he has with staff or his sporting director. And we have a lot of time to develop here. But he does need to get results to keep everyone on side, right? Absolutely nowhere near a crisis situation, losing a cup quarter-final away at Spurs in fairly chaotic circumstances. But we got this game against Bournemouth, who are playing really well. Wolves, who are bringing in a new manager. New manager bounce. Then we've got Newcastle, then Liverpool, then Arsenal. It's like you wouldn't want to lose a lot of those games. Everyone loses confidence in the way it's going then. So let's batter this lot, put these upstarts in their place or something like that, and move on.
Yeah.
What kind of team? Are we going to have another 5 changes? I mean, probably, right? Who keeps the place? Who comes in? Does Maguire come in? De Ligt will come in. Assuming he's fit. So
he was unwell, wasn't he, tonight? So.
Yeah, he was unwell. So would it be, because he seems to have been reluctant to play Euro twice in a row. So let's assume it's De Ligt, Maguire, Martinez, and Anna's back in goal. Home game against Bournemouth, he's not going to go with 2 defensive fullbacks, is he? So does Diallo start at right wing back and Dallo at left, maybe? Ugarte for sure. And then Kobe... Okay, it's sub tonight, so maybe starts at the weekend, and Bruno and Højlund and one other, right? Something like that. Although I don't know why I'm trying to predict it. You just can't at the moment.
I do think you probably see Casemiro in the side. He's had two longer run without any minutes, so he'll probably start.
Fair shout, yeah. Although I don't know, feels like Amorim, based on absolutely nothing at all. It feels like Amorim doesn't necessarily see him as his first choice, but yeah.
Yeah, there's that. I do think like maybe not Rashford. I think it could be in the squad. You never know.
I mean, that's the conversation those two will presumably be having about.
And everyone will be having with Amorim. Bloody hell.
For sure.
Every single question that's been asked of him this week.
11 in a row, by the way. 11 in a row about Marcus Rashford. Come on. They're not going to reveal details. The one thing he did say, which was more revealing than I thought he would be, which is, he said, I thought he might talk to the manager first. But he said it in his kind of super personable
Yeah.
Isn't he, Ruben? He's very disarming with how he deals with this kind of stuff. And so it felt like a throwaway comment. But it's probably, it might well be fair comment. Like, Rashford didn't run, let's be clear, he didn't run to the press. It was a long planned charity event, and United players will do literally hundreds of these between them in the season. They don't usually garner this kind of interest and scrutiny. But clearly those two need to have a real conversation, because there's not going to be much of a market in January to just sell him. And so we don't want to get back into a Sancho-like situation where you have a expensive resource, a potentially match-winning resource, potentially, I say. We obviously haven't seen it nearly as much as we'd like, on the sidelines, doing nothing, right? It's not good for anyone.
No. But I will tell you one thing. It was in Sky's build-up tonight. Carragher was talking about him, and he said...
Carragher knows nothing, by the way, but go on. Sorry.
No, yeah. He said, it's too much talk for a player who's not good enough to deserve it, which I thought was a complete bell-end thing to say, because... And then he listed off players, like he said, United have lost Eric Cantona, they've lost David Beckham, they've lost Wayne Rooney, they've lost Ronaldo, and he doesn't deserve to be mentioned in that kind of thing. By the way, you guys are the one setting the bloody agenda. You're the one who is driving the narrative, so stop talking about him, and then he won't be talked about. That's how it happens, Carragher. Shut your mouth, stop feeding it, stop being the thing that you are complaining about. And I just think, to say something like that about a professional footballer, to basically criticise him and say that he's not good. This is a young player. Like I said this on my... Sorry, Ed, I know we were about to wrap up, but this is really ground my gears. There's a lot of discourse over Rashford. Rightly so. He's a high-profile player at Manchester United. And I know you've talked about it on it, and there's been a separate pod on it, so I don't want to go on too much about it. The point I want to make is that he broke into the side as a player when no one was predicting that he was going to be like what they were predicting of Garnacho or even Kobe. He was just a player who seized an opportunity when there was an injury crisis. He came in, he's played over 400 times for United, he scored nearly 150 goals. He's far exceeded what any reasonable expectation there was of him, of 17-year-old. Now, all right, people can talk about whether or not he's fulfilled his potential, whether or not there's more to come from him. He seems to believe there is, with good reason, because he's himself. He's allowed to think that about himself. Other people might think that he's overperformed and that he won't play well wherever he goes. That's fine. That's football. It's about opinions. If you're on a major broadcast network, you are commenting on a player who's come through an academy, he's scored tons of goals, played for his country, scored in World Cups, and you are telling a subscribing public that this person is not good enough to be worthy of talking about when you're talking about it, is fucking shameful, Ed. I'm sorry to swear, but it is...
Well, I swear 50 times a show, as people keep telling me. But Wayne, from Carragher, who's one of the least self-aware pundits in the game, right? He does not look internally at all. He said with the amount of self-awareness of a player who spat in a 6-year-old girl's face, it's shameful that Carragher has a job. And to be really online pundity about it, can you imagine the fucking insanity if Rashford spat in a child's face? Instead, he has been on the fucking back pages of the Telegraph 9 days in a row, 9 hit pieces in a row from that cunt Ducker. And by the way, I don't know whether he actually watches this, probably doesn't, but if you'd like to come on and explain yourself, right? 9 days in a row, like on the back pages of the Telegraph. For what? Right? Just regurgitating the same stuff. If he'd spat in a child's face instead of feeding them, that was actually a bigger crime, right? He saw, because he grew up in poverty, he saw hungry children, and he made an effort to take on the establishment, who are all wankers from Eton. Sorry, there's some very lovely people who come from Eton, but that lot weren't. And he won, and as a result, he was the target. At the same time, he hasn't played nearly as well as we'd like him to. We'd love him to. The rest of it's all bullshit. 1, his salary is not what people say it is. 2, people in the internet and the world know absolutely nothing about his attitude, nothing at all. They're just making it up. They don't know about his work rate. They say that, but, you know, Ten Hag had him playing a very specific position. I don't know what's happening within the training ground and the conversations he's had with Amorim or the rest of the United hierarchy. They don't know any of it. They just make it up.
Yeah.
Right? So we all got opinions, that's fine, but the certainty of online trolls, I find completely shocking. I also find, since we're talking about the media, I find the hypocrisy kind of weird. Like, if Rashford gives it is a very occasional interview, that's PR and it's terrible. Anthony Martial would never talk to the press, and it was regularly commented like that he didn't talk to the press. Which one is it, guys? You want them talking to the press, or you don't want them talking to the press?
It's racism, is what it is.
And no doubt there's some element, right? I'm always reluctant to go, hey, this is the only reason, because, of course, humans are complex.
No,
right?
but it's our reason. It definitely is.
It's part of the landscape of why certain players, Paul Pogba, Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial, Jesse Lingard, attract way more attention for their supposed lifestyle, attitude, body language. Everyone's a fucking expert in body language when it comes to young black men on a football pitch. And so it is it factors. I mean, with Marcus Rashford, there's a lot of straight up racism, right? Just look at any kind of post about him or by him. He doesn't tweet very often these days, but it'll be filled with monkey emojis. It's absolutely disgusting. And these are from United fans.
Yeah.
Apparently. So anyway.
Well, for what it's worth, Marcus Rashford, not that you'll listen to this, I am proud that you represent my football club. Even when you don't play well because of what you've done in the past, you should be proud of yourself. I'm proud of myself that I haven't died through this podcast with my chest infection. If anyone has seen, if it has been jarring for anyone while I've been away spluttering myself to near death, I apologise for that. But I'm proud I made it here, still in one piece, to wax. Sorry about that, because I went absolutely raging. I don't know what it was, but you found me the little part.
That's all right.
Well, wherever you led me to Carragher, I don't know how you did it, but he just brought that thing into my brain. It was just like, oh my God, I am furious about that. Thank you for sharing is caring. Thank you for allowing me the space to vent.
I'm going to go away and produce this podcast, which has already been produced by the time you listen or see it. And we will be back at the week. I think I'm with Adam at the weekend. Aussie Adam, who's been on some of the shorter day pods and has a certain reputation online for trolling City fans, which he does very well. Masterfully. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for listening or commenting. Try and keep it civil. I know it's hard for some of you because you're faceless people on the internet and we've all got an opinion. But I will name and shame if I see anything like I've seen in the withheld comment section on YouTube. With that warning, thanks everyone. Bye now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.